Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time, a Wave original. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. It is Nate Tice Friday. Nate Tice, Yahoo Sports. What's going on, man?
Not too much. Nate Tice Friday. I'll take it.
Man. You know, it's a rotating marquee these days, you know?
It is. I like the Friday show. That's perfect. Yeah, you can brand that and make sure you have the fish too. You know, that's what I associate. It's Fish Fridays. That's Nate Tice. Nate Tice and Fish Fridays. That's what we got going on.
There we go. We'll make it happen, man. We got a lot of NFL action coming up this weekend. This feels crazy to me, but I have to be honest about it. Like, you know, this game is interesting when people say that we chase clicks, and I am not chasing clicks. However, the clicks are often an indication of what y'all want to talk about or what it is that y'all want to hear about. And I don't know if you experienced this on your show. Actually, I know you do because they coming down on my man Charles McDonald's head. He got a podcast called Football 301 with friend of the program, Charles McDonald. The people really get charged up about Shedeur Sanders. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but the people really get charged up about him. He is going to start on Sunday. Dillon Gabriel is still in concussion protocol, and so he is going to start. I'll be honest with you, brother. I don't even know who it is that they're going to play against. I just know that he's going to be out there, and you play football, college football as a quarterback. This is kind of your thing. This is what you do.
It's my thing.
What did you see on Sunday?
A guy that I saw in the preseason, which was a guy that's not very big and also runs backwards in the pocket and kind of seems like a step behind running an NFL offense, which is what he looked like in the preseason. Even when talking about him as a prospect, and I think people definitely got out over their skis about him because I always considered him, and Charles did too, Charles McDonald. So I'm glad you actually mentioned that because when that clip got posted, and at first I was like, yeah, this will get some people will probably get mad about this, but whatever. And then I wake up the next day and I was like, oh my God. And because I get tagged in it and I'm like, and my guy Charles isn't even on Twitter anymore. So I just see all these and I'm like sending it to him. Are you seeing this? But even going into the draft I thought he was a day 2 guy is how I kind of ended up putting it, like a 3rd round grade. I thought a lot of these quarterbacks were. I thought Jackson Dart as well was a late 2nd, early 3rd rounder. And watching him on Sunday, that's exactly what he looks like. He looks like a guy that needs time, a guy that's more of a project. But then my argument got to about Shedeur was, what traits are you working with here? Like, and this is actually some of my discussion with JJ McCarthy right now too, where it's like, yeah, if it's a project with a guy that needs time, I want that guy to look like Anthony Richardson and play like Anthony Richardson, or I want a Josh Allen if you want the high end of that, or a Culpepper, who I feel like we talk about every time I'm on this show. Yes. But you want the guy that you can grow into being a freak. You know, you want the freaky traits, and then we work on the polish. But if I'm trying to polish this guy to be a fine average starter, is the juice worth the squeeze? But watching him on Sunday, that's what it looked like. It looked like a guy that hadn't played much or looks like he's behind the 8 ball with an NFL offense. And also just like some of the trait stuff and some of the play styles were behind too, as far as with the pocket movement. Bullets started flying and he reverted to his worst tendencies, which was drifting back in the pocket. And they go against the Raiders this week, who don't have the craziest defense in the world, but they still have Max Crosby. And I'm curious how many Tom Brady, Shedeur Sanders kind of discussions happen, after this game. I'm sure it's going to be exhausting with some of those connections, I'm sure, with the pre-show and everything.
Yeah, or like improper conversations. I mean, there's no way in the world that Fox is sending Tom Brady to cover no Browns and Raiders, but it would be great if they had, so we could see him talking to coaches he shouldn't be talking to a player that he probably shouldn't be talking to.
I love they point out every time he's on, they're like, he doesn't have a headset on. He doesn't have a headset. Like they make sure to the commentators go like, see, it's okay. It's above board. He doesn't have a headset on. It's like, we got it, guys.
but no, I will say this about Shedeur for me, because as I said early in the season, no, he's not in a position to be successful. He plays for the Browns. There's not a single person on that team that's being put into a position to be successful. Dillon Gabriel was not put into a position to be successful. And I say this as somebody that doesn't think there is a position for Dillon Gabriel to be successful. Like you and I both are like, hey, man, you got to be really super talented if you're going to be a little guy playing quarterback or a short guy playing quarterback. You play college football with Russell Wilson. And I remember when he came out, and this is, I was covering him when he was a redshirt freshman at NC State. Yep. And the argument was, if this guy can't do it at this size, then that means that nobody can do it at this size. Like, that's how
Right.
talented he is.
Yes.
And he did it at this size.
Yes.
Dylan Gabriel is not Russell Wilson in
Right.
terms of the talent. Like, this isn't, I don't think this is going to go well for him. Nobody's in a position to be successful playing for that team. Joe Flacco, who looks like an NFL quarterback again, playing for the
Yes.
Bengals. He was not in a position to be successful playing for the Browns. Like, we need to get that out of the way. All of that's to say, I think that we could go ahead and start looking at the future when it comes to Shedeur. Like, what's going to happen in the offseason with him?
Yeah.
Because I feel fairly confident the Browns are going to draft a quarterback in the top 5 of this draft, and Sanders is not going to play for them anymore. Who's going to sign up for this? I'm very, very curious of that, because it feels like you, at the very least, need somebody who thinks that he could turn into a backup quarterback, which is still not certain, right? So you need somebody who thinks that he could develop while also having the patience to recognize, or maybe you just need a Lamar Jackson or somebody that starts ahead of him to where nobody's calling for the backup, right? Like where Shedeur said he didn't want to play for the Ravens, for example, because Lamar Jackson's going to be there. I'm never going to play. No. That was going to be best case scenario for you, was to be somewhere where you weren't going to play, and maybe you could lay low and get better.
That's exactly what it has to be. Because I mean, even just when this summer, people were asking Kevin Stefanski, why is he 4th? And it's like, well, there's 2 vets ahead. With just even taking reps and everything, and there's just the understanding of that where you are in the hierarchy, and understanding that you're not getting these 1 reps. So I totally agree with you. I think no matter what, the thing with the Browns too, it is their offensive line is a ticking time bomb. As far as it's already weak this year, but it's older. Like all their guys, I think all their starters are above 30, which is, I'm 36 and I'm acting like, oh man, just all these guys are above 30, but in sports terms, that is old. And all of them are contract wise. I think 3 or 4 of their starters, their contracts are up after this year. So, all right. So if I'm dropping in a young quarterback, another one, say Fernando Mendoza, I'm just throwing a name out there. Say we throw him out there. He's going to be behind a reworked offensive line with potentially Jerry Jeudy as your best pass catcher, which is not a winning proposition. Got a cool running back, Quinshon Judkins. He's cool. He's a fun player. Harold Fannin. On field.
Important distinction.
Yes. Art and artist. Separate that completely. Yes, I know. I always have to do that. And then actually, that's funny, but Harold Fannin, their tight end from Bowling Green, Charles actually compared him to Aaron Hernandez. As far as a prospect, and he just kept having to go on field only. So yeah, exactly. But they actually move kind of the same. It's kind of funny. But they on field. But watching all that, that's a totally reworked team. Like you need several pass catchers. You need at least 2 receivers. Cedric Tillman's interesting, but he has concussion issues amongst other things. Jeudy is a 2 at best, and so you need a number 1 receiver. You need at least 3 starters on your offensive line, and then you're going to drop in a young quarterback there. So that they're already going to be like still messy going into next year, like maybe more positivity because then they have their guy, which originally was Dylan Gabriel was their guy in the 3rd round that they overdrafted. And I don't know.
Crazy.
It was, that's the thing about when he got drafted.
That's the thing that gets him in trouble with Shedeur is that pick was so crazy.
Yes. Even people that like Dylan Gabriel that I talked to, I was not a fan because I'm kind of a sizist, especially at quarterback but I watched it. I'm like, okay, 5th rounder, maybe a 4th round guy, because sometimes that happens with QBs. You take him in the 4th of a team that likes him, but then going into the 3rd round, especially in that QB draft, you're really saying we like him out of this group above everybody else. And you mentioned him with Russ. I was actually talking to your producer about this before the show. It's not even just height with these guys, it's weight. And weight with a quarterback really matters. And it's not just because to run a guy over, it's standing in the pocket. And when a guy grabs at you and pulls at you, like, do you just get falling down or you knocked down easily? You see this issue happening with JJ McCarthy right now, which was an issue I had before the season or before the draft with him. Jaden Daniels, it was more of injury concerns, and he has the speed to get away from it. But the weight of these guys, it's a combat sport, it's a physical sport, and combat sports have weight classes. And so when I watch and when I see a guy like Dylan Gabriel, that's a $190, and I would say a fine athlete, but not an exceptional athlete. And a fine arm, not an exceptional arm. A guy like Russ is 215. Like he's a big, thick guy who was drafted to play baseball. So he has a baseball arm and also launches it that way. But he also has the stoutness and the strength to hold up. It wasn't just the height, it's the weight.
And is a 4'5" guy.
And he's an exceptional, and even a guy like Kyler, who is the bare minimum, I think. Baseball arm, stout. He's not the biggest guy, but he's a little stout for how small he is. But again, those are the things that are a difference between a guy like Dylan Gabriel, who had average arm, average quickness, average stuff like that, on top of being smaller than those guys. So I just always kind of like, but that's also just ties in with Shedeur. He's not the biggest guy either. He put on a little combine weight, but I think he was a $196, $197 his last year at Colorado. That's 205 is the bare minimum you have to be at. There's not a lot of a long history of quarterbacks being successful below 205. It's like Joe Montana, Kirk Cousins, Jeff Garcia, Aaron Brooks. Like
Right.
if but it's not a long history. And all those guys are drafted in the third round, the fourth round, undrafted, not guys drafted in the first round, top 15 and all that. So, but even a guy with like Shedeur, that's something that has some concerns. Not the greatest athlete. He's not the biggest guy either. And so hopefully you have the arm, but right now he's not hanging in the pocket like you want him to see to like make this be successful at this point in time, of course.
Yeah, well, I also think the Browns are in a bind no matter what they do. If the plan is we're going to get a quarterback next year,
Yeah.
you follow these guys more closely than I do. I haven't seen a reason to be excited about a quarterback that's going to be in this
Right.
draft yet. Whether we're talking about Mateer, we're talking about Mendoza, who are we
Dante
like?
Moore.
Honestly, yeah, like to this day, Carson Beck is probably the look the part guy about all of these. That's a terrible idea, but at least like I've looked at him, I've been like, okay, that looks like an NFL quarterback from time to time. But I don't see any quarterback yet that's like, oh, this is what you want to do.
And that's what I've graded these guys now. I just did a big board. I had 4 guys in my top 30. But the thing was, none of them are like what I call a true blue chip guy, which goes in the top 5 of any draft class, period. It's like Mendoza, I like. He's my QB1. I actually feel like I'm in a safe place here. I really like Sellers, Lenore Sellers from South Carolina. I think you and I have a same quarterback archetype that we've liked.
Yes.
And actually, his film is way better than he's getting credit for. He's way further along than Anthony Richardson was. It's just South Carolina's offensive line is one of the worst I've ever watched. His receivers are running the wrong routes. He's better than people realize, but I'm curious what he might transfer instead. He's really young for his grade too. He's the one guy that has that upside of being like a true dude. Mendoza to me has a very high floor and a pretty good ceiling, but to him, it's like his peak is like QB 12, QB 10, good starter, but not the dude, that you want. If you're a team like the Jets, that might be a breath of fresh air. Oh my God, we finally just got someone that's competent. Maybe the Browns want that, but I agree with you. It's a lot of what I call green chip prospects. Good prospects, but not, got to get this guy in the top 10 like Caleb Williams or Drake May were. Or those guys were purple chips, $500 chips to me. These guys, but even there's Ty Simpson from Alabama, but I think he has some accuracy issues. He's not very big either, and he hasn't started a lot of games. Dante Moore,
He gives you a head scratcher or two a game. Huh?
Every game. He's fun, like, because he tries some shit, but he's also like gets himself in trouble because of that. And again, not very big. Dante Moore, I think long term, I think he should go back another year, but it's because I'm more excited about what he is developing and what he is showing. He's a little safe right now, but man, he's got something to him. He's got some good accuracy. He's got decent size and everything. He's a guy, but I think he'll go back. But we'll see, how that all goes. Tell a guy that they're going in the top 10, everything changes. So to your point, there's no real
question on that right fast. Because you just hit on something I think is important. With the new world order and these guys are actually getting some money.
Yeah.
Like, does a 2026 version of Anthony Richardson, for example, go back to school?
I think he does. Or transfer
right?
somewhere.
And so that's going to be interesting to see with some of these dudes is whether, and of course, always, what do you hear back on your draft grade? Because the thing we've learned, remember when it was like, oh my gosh, Matt Lafleur came back to school. That's so crazy. Clearly, he was told you need to come back to school.
Exactly.
Jake Locker. Remember when Jake Locker came back and everybody's like, yo, this is crazy. Nah. They told him to come back to school, But with these guys, if you're hearing you're going to be a top 15 pick, you should probably go. But if you can still make $5 or $6 million, which some of these guys can make by going back to school.
You're exactly right. I actually looked at it. Spotrax got it. And so how much are these guys making? Like the top quarterbacks in college, what, 4 mil, 3 mil, somewhere around there, 3 to 5 mil, somewhere around there. And like the break-even point, is pick number 12 this year in the 2025 class got $4 million his first year. He made $22 million over 4 years. Okay, so are you a top 15 pick or not? If you're not, transfer, go back to school. Like that's what it's become. And I don't blame guys. Some guys are going to change that and be like, no, I want to get to the league. And I totally get that. But a guy like Sellers, who I think should go in the top 12. And I think if he does enter the process, coaches are going to watch him and then see the traits. He's supposed to be a great kid, all this stuff. But the thing is, all right, well, if that's not a guarantee and he's hearing, oh, you might be a day 2 guy, well, then there's transfer and everything because now they can get that money. They can get top 12 pick money. Like, but that's what I've been kind of looking at. It's like for them, that has to be the break even point for some of them because why enter the draft when I could just get paid another $4 million and be the dude on campus again? Like why just get that guarantee stuff? So I totally agree with you. That's a totally new element that we have to deal with, which we'll see what the repercussions is as the years go along with it.
And now we add all of this and it comes down to where I kind of started with this is where in the world is Shedeur Sanders going to wind up? Because he can't come back to the Browns after this season unless he is lights out for the rest of the year and makes himself look like a starter, which I think is too much. I think it was too much to ask of Dylan Gabriel. I think it was almost too much to ask of Kenny Pickett at this point. Yep. But it's a lot to ask. If he doesn't do that, I think that something about that relationship does feel not good, right? Yes. Like he clearly, the staff does not seem invested in him in any sort of way, which means he probably has to go somewhere else to get this done. But who wants to sign up for this at this point?
And the thing was too, the draft when he fell, I thought, to day 2, which is where I thought you would end up actually, because of just some of the stuff like, okay, this is what his talent is. And then it gets to a point, if you're a backup, if you're a development guy, usually it's out of sight, out of mind. You're just deal with the scout team and then the quarterback coach or the assistant quarterback coach. We work on some stuff, day to day. And that's it during the season. And that's another thing is people are like, he didn't get reps with the ones. He's been hurt. He's hurt his hamstring. He's hurt. He sat out of practices with a sore shoulder. All he's doing is scout team and he's hurt. Again, bringing up the size stuff. But that's the thing too, is that there's not a lot of reps to go around. And also the staff has to be like, all right, am I going to waste my time and waste my stuff to develop this when anything that goes on, all of a sudden there's so much noise about why is he 4th in the individual line giving handoffs? So what you're saying is like these guys have to deal with so much noise anyways. So I'm sure that they're like, a team's looking at them like, well, I don't want to deal with that. Like, or I totally agree with you. That's because it feels like to me that this was a regime pick on day 3. I'm not the first person to say that. As far as I think, the execs, Andrew Berry, maybe the owners got involved. It does not feel like a coach's pick. And that's the thing too. If that's how one coach's staff feels like, well, people in the league talk and people in the league that are fighting for their jobs or everything like that. It has to go to a very safe place. Like you said, a starting quarterback that's already locked in and a head coach that has time and job security. But are the Rams going to go for that? I'm just trying to throw out some other teams there, but like the Cowboys going to go, well, Jerry, but like some of the teams, they have to have like real locked in solidified because this is just such a wild variable and the NFL teams do not like wild variables like that.
And I also think that observers, I think there are a lot of people who observe the Shedeur stuff who don't really do this. And that's not an insult to them, but he has a lot of general audience interest.
That's a great point.
And I think that a lot of people need to understand, or even the people who aren't just general audience, more toward even sports fans who veer toward like general audience, if you put it all on a spectrum or a continuum, right? This league is not about giving people chances. They give people jobs. You can turn it into a chance. You can seize an opportunity, but nobody owes you a chance per se, right? And so the argument that Sanders has not been given enough of a chance, that's the argument behind not practicing with the ones. He's not even getting a chance. That's not what they do there.
Nope.
This isn't, we're just giving everybody a chance to live out their dreams. They are not in the business of making dreams come true. That's not, dreams come true here, but not because that's what they're trying to accomplish. That's not it. So no, they're not giving him a chance. They are giving Dylan Gabriel a chance, but not because they want to give Dylan Gabriel a chance. They think it's best for them.
Yeah.
They're not doing a favor to Dylan Gabriel.
They're trying to because if it works, it's a feather in their cap. And that's what it is. Like, they didn't even go into the season wanting Dylan Gabriel playing the whole season. They had Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett on this roster for a reason. I didn't like the method to their madness. I thought they should have just traded for Tanner McKee and just get through all this bullshit and be done with it. But no, you're absolutely right. It's a meritocracy in so much way more than people realize. Like, yes, there is nepotism. Yes, people get chances and get jobs and stuff like that. But as far as playing, because the film doesn't lie. So if you're just going like, oh no, we got to get this shot, people in the locker room are going to go like, all right, I'm going to get another concussion and run over the middle for this shit. Like that's not how it works. Like, it works for like, who's the guy next to me that's going to get me paid and win me football games? All right, if he's going to do that, then I'll do whatever. I'll run through a brick wall for him. But if we're just doing this ideas and fun stuff, it doesn't work like that. And just like you said, the rep stuff, during the season, there's a finite amount of reps that can go around because you're installing to win that game that week. And it's not just like training camp, which is still limited reps, but it's like, at least we can parse up these practice reps to get these plays going. They're trying to game plan for this week and win this game because there's a lot of guys who have their jobs on the line, not just coaches, players as well. So like, that's what the whole thing is too. It's like, yeah, we want the dreams and why isn't he your reps with the ones? Because that's not how it works. The ones get the reps. There's the famous line, right, about Tom Moore. Yeah. We don't. That's so
and for people
true.
who don't know the line is Peyton Manning takes all the practice snaps, which is in part because Peyton Manning is a control freak maniac.
Yes.
But the other part was Tom Moore's argument was if we have to go to the backup, we're fucked, and we don't practice fucked.
And it's so true. How about this? Another tie in Russell Wilson. Okay, he transfers to Wisconsin. Paul Chris, offense coordinator, and even Bielema, the head coach, they ran it very pro style. How our practice week was very pro style structured as far as reps, as far as like how, situations and everything. Makes sense. That's what we had to do at Wisconsin to win games. So Russ gets there. I'm the backup. All right, so we're going through the first game script, going through all the stuff, and then he kind of looks and he goes, "Am I taking all these?" I'm like, "Yep." I'm like, I get 3 plays. I get 3. That's all I got. I would get 3 plays. Like, and there's just one little series. Okay, these are the 3 plays in case we are fucked because Russell's hurt. And then Nate has to go in there. All right, these are the 3 plays that we go with. And then that Paul Chris had to explain to him, like, well, we're trying to teach, this what we did at, San Diego Chargers, whatever. This is how I know it. And so Russ was like getting groomed for the NFL because that's how we practice. We practice like an NFL team in ways. But that was one of the ways we did it was, no, the one gets all the reps. He gets all the reps in walkthrough. He gets all the reps in 7-on-7. He gets all the reps in team because that's the starter, and we're developing the starter right now. So, because one time he complained, he was like, man, I just threw like 110 balls. I'm like, you still got like 30 more. Because that's how but that's what being a one is. You take all the reps. That's how it kind of goes. So, yeah.
Well, also don't forget that he had spent 2-3 years with a giraffe over his shoulder that the coach absolutely wanted to take his job if at all possible. Oh my God, you had to be there, man. Like it is a fast because he was not Tom O'Brien's guy. Glennon was the guy that he brought in, and the whole that first year with Russ was all right. We're just holding this down until Glennon gets the job, and then little did they know that they had an NFL quarterback. And so, but there was never a day that Tom O'Brien did not wish that Mike Glennon would be the quarterback. We'll switch gears right fast before we go into break, but. The Chiefs are playing for their season this week. Is that fair to say? I keep saying that, except all that they're in the hunt. They're still only 1 game out of making the playoffs, and it still feels like they're better than all the other in the hunt teams. And CJ Stroud apparently suffered a serious concussion because he still isn't back, and they stay in that in the hunt graphic. However, they play against the Colts this week, and they got to get this one done.
Yeah, they're favored against the Colts this week. They
got it at home.
They're at home, but it's even more than the home spread. They gave them a point. Vegas did, and I did a show with Sheil Kapadia on the Ringer this week, and he mentioned to me that betting markets, at least, which is just one thing to look at, betting markets have the Chiefs favored over every single NFL team if they played on a neutral field this week. So even the Rams, who I think are the best team right now, the Chiefs would be favored on a neutral field, like say if the Super Bowl happened this week. And when I looked at so I agree with you, must win, because I think the New York Times and everything had them at like 55% to make the playoffs, which feels about right. And they have a decently hard schedule, but looking at them and looking at the AFC, they're not as flawed as the other AFC teams are. It's not the best Chiefs version of the Chiefs team we've seen with Mahomes. I think that's pretty obvious. That's why they're 5-5. But I think that also they're not like outright bad in any area. Like their run game is actually pretty solid. They don't get explosives, but it's solid. It's above like high rushing success rate, all that stuff. Mahomes is Mahomes. The O line's actually good. I think that's kind of been an underrated thing. Those young guys are working. I know Simmons missed some time, but even in the backup, more that they signed was good. Kingsley Suamataia, the left guard's like really good. And then the defense, Spags always kind of goes on an uptick in this after the bye week. Andy Reid and Spags teams always have they really figure they just had their bye week and they lost actually with the Broncos game, but they always kind of figure their shit out as the season goes along. And so that's why I've kind of stayed, I wouldn't say bullish all the way with them, but still I think they'll figure this out. They'll be like a 7 seed, and then it's dangerous because I think they're just fine to good in every area. Like every stat I look at, and I don't want to bore you with every freaking acronym soup that I'll throw at you, but they're like top 5 in passing. They're like 12th in rushing. They're like top 12 on defense. I don't know. That to me is still a solid. I think it's a dangerous team because now their backs are against the wall too. So maybe we'll see some ideas popping from Reed and everything too. So I'm not totally out on them, even if it is a coin flip for them to make the playoffs. I actually think they're one of the better teams in the AFC in a weird way.
Well, I feel like if they wind up at 7, then they'll end up in the first round playing either against the Broncos again, or the Patriots, or this team they play this week, the Indianapolis Colts. My question with them is, did the Steelers expose them?
Oh, the Colts?
Yes.
In ways.
Because I felt like they got beaten pretty thoroughly in that game.
They did.
And the Steelers are not that good.
They did because it was in a way that you always have that Daniel Jones pumpkin aspect. You never know when he's going to turn into a pumpkin. He has been way better than I've ever seen him in my life. I think anyone could say that. But it's all been, they don't get a lot of 3rd and longs because the run game is freaking awesome. He's got a lot of talent there. And all of a sudden, that game, the left tackle, Raymond, kept losing to, I think it was Highsmith. He kept beating him. And that to me was interesting because it was the first game they had to drop back. They couldn't do the play actions. They couldn't do the RPOs. They couldn't do the training wheel stuff to kind of keep them afloat. And they had to drop back. And then Raymond kept getting beat, which is dangerous, which is scary. And also Daniel Jones started kind of, crapping out a little bit. And so that to me is always like they're game script dependent more than maybe other really good teams. Meaning like if they get into it's almost like a Shanahan team where it's like, okay, now we're losing now. Oh God, we got to drop back. I don't know if we can do that. So I think that's kind of how I feel about them. When they're rolling, they're in a neutral game script. Yeah. Awesome offense. The run game's amazing. Jonathan Taylor's been great. I really like the young receivers and everything, but I think just they always have that crap on them. And also their defense. I like the Sauce move. It was a little expensive, the Sauce Gardner trade, but their defense is really gettable. And it's like an average defense. Lou Anarumo was a good coordinator, but it's an average defense. So they have a really hard schedule to end their year. I don't know if you've checked it out, but I'm very curious how the Colts kind of end up this year because they go Chiefs, Texans, Jags, aren't the best team, but they're dangerous. And actually would be in the playoffs right now. Then Seahawks, 49ers, then Jags again. And then they end with the Texans. There's no gimmies for them in the second half of the year, which I think I'm very curious to see how it kind of unfolds. Still think they're a good team, but I think there are some flaws with them.
All right, I'm going to tap into maybe your Wisconsin Badger favoritism here with my hot take that you may have heard me offer before, but I'm going to say it again.
Let's hear it.
Jonathan Taylor is perhaps on his way to his second 1,800-yard season, definitely on his way to his third 1,400-yard season after running for 6,000 yards in 3 years in college. And I argue that he is quite possibly the most underrated football player ever. 6,000 yards in college in 3 years used to get you Wheaties box, and he is a great NFL running back.
And he was running back 3 in that draft too. He got drafted after Swift. I think he was 4 actually. He got drafted after CEH, Swift, and maybe J.K. Dobbins.
Can you imagine if the Chiefs had done that? Now, granted, I know that he probably wasn't out there running a lot of routes with Wisconsin, but still.
but can you imagine this? I mean, shoot, right now they get all those 2 high boxes. And so just imagine him, his big ass just flying through the, especially with this offensive line they have right now. Oh my God, they would just run all over people. That was one of the craziest things to me because that was right when I was getting into media was that combine. They had over under 40 times, posted that you could bet on. I didn't. And I now a related story. My new refrigerator in the kitchen is because of this. They posted his over under at the 40, 454 or like 4. And it was like, has anyone watched this guy once in Wisconsin? And he also ran like a 10-400 in college at 230 pounds. And that was like the easiest bet I've ever made in my entire life. All right, betting the under on his 40, and he went out and flew. So I am with you. I think he's still an incredible guy too, like a really good interview, really thoughtful guy. I've gotten to talk to him a few times over the years. But no, I'm with you. He's totally underrated. And I just
remember when he had to fight them for the money? Like, it's kind of
Yes.
crazy he still plays there. It was not that long ago that he and Irsay, rest in peace, were really duking it out over this
That's
money.
right. Oh,
I had
my
forgotten
God.
about that until right now.
Yes, that's right. I that's absolutely right. Yes, that's right. And he's like a great teammate, hard worker, face of the franchise as they go through another quarterback change. Like, it's
Right.
These are the guys you're supposed to like kind of, show you pay a little premium to keep these types of guys around. Oh yeah, the over under was set at 4-5-1, and he ended up running
You're like, let me get that, homie. Let me get that big dog. All right, we got more NFL coming up next with Nate Tice. What if you could consistently find whatever it is you're looking for right away? We're talking everything from parking spots to holiday gifts to jackets or jeans that fit perfectly. Imagine how much time you'd save. While you may never instantly find these things, if you're hiring, you can find qualified candidates right away, time and time again with ZipRecruiter. And today, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Bomani. ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology works fast to find top talent. With ZipRecruiter's advanced resume database, you can unlock top candidates' contact info instantly. Want to know right away how many qualified candidates are in your area? Look no further than ZipRecruiter. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Bomani. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/Bomani. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Let's be honest. It's hard to stay healthy during the holiday season. Crowded airports and travel cause strain on our systems. Darkness and shorter days may throw off your rhythm, and holiday meals mean getting lost in sweets and snacking. That's where AG1 comes in. But what is AG1? AG1 Next Gen is a daily health drink clinically shown to support gut health and fill in common nutrient gaps. 1 scoop in the morning with 8 to 12 ounces of cold water adds up to whole body health support from 75 plus vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and whole food sources ingredients. AG1 isn't just another supplement. It's a daily micro habit that supports whole body health in 1 scoop. Here's how to make it yours. Head to drinkag1.com/Bomani to get a free welcome kit with an AG1 Flavor Sampler and a bottle of Vitamin D3+K2 when you first subscribe. That's drinkag1.com/Bomani. I think we've talked about it a little bit on this show, but not that much. But it's bearing discussion that Matt Lafleur is low-key coaching for his job. And I make the argument that if you're coaching for your job, you've already lost your job. Like, they got him on a plan. He on the PIP, the performance improvement plan. But you watch them, and it's one thing when you see a team that is not as good as you thought they were. It is another when you feel like you are clearly watching a team that is underachieving. And that is kind of how I feel, even though like their receiver situation is a little bit janky. Yeah. But they should be better than this, is what it feels like at every turn.
They are. I keep going back to this line, is that every time I watch them live, I'm like, you guys stink. I can't believe I was optimistic about you guys. What was I thinking? And then I rewatch them on film, and I'm always like, oh, you're actually pretty good. You actually do a lot of like nice things. And so I have no idea how to compute them, like how to analyze them. Like I keep putting them at like 8th best team, 7th best, just outside the contenders, but I'm going to keep my eye on them. But I think the Tucker Kraft injury is the one thing that's really damning, more than most tight end injuries, because of what he generated for the offense. I think LaFleur is a good coach. I think I don't think he should be coaching for his job. I think people in Green Bay are just very spoiled with their team. But I do think when I watch them, they have a little bit of a, fuck around and find out flaw to them, where the Browns game might be the best example, where they're playing. It's not to lose. It's more just like, we're just not going to let you have any big plays against us. So we're going to be very conservative on 1st and 2nd down. I think his 2nd down play calling would be the biggest blemish they just run it. And they have an interesting run game, and I like it's well schemed and everything. But Josh Jacobs isn't the most explosive guy. He's hurt right now too. But they just run it. They get to a lot of third and shorts, third and threes, third and fours, and then Jordan Love converts. And then they maybe get to a short yardage and they take a shot play. So to me, that's fine and that's all good, especially going against another good team. But when you're going against a team that's inferior to yourselves, and I think Browns were one of those, the Panthers, when they played the Panthers, although our guy Charles McDonald predicted that upset. So I got to give him a little props on that one too. But these types of things, or those types of games, those types of matchups, that's where the frustration lies. It's like, hey, let it hang out sometimes. Like, you got a quarterback that's willing to do it. Like, we've watched him. He actually had a really good game, Jordan Love, against the Giants too. Underappreciated game. But I do think there is some conservativeness with his play calling in the weirdest way because it's so aggressive passing. But I think running the ball, they're fine with those 3-4 yard gains. And that's a little archaic, a line of thinking. I understand why they do it, but it's very 1997 kind of football thinking as opposed to maybe 2025, which is interesting to me. But I don't think he should be on the hot seat. I still think they're actually a pretty good team.
What do you think Flores is going to have for these boys? They're playing against the Vikings this week.
Well, I don't think they have to worry because McCarthy's starting at quarterback for the Vikings. So
yeah, I just think that's why I said specifically Flores. Like, I'm just very curious what Flores is going to throw out there.
It's when they play in the past, when it's been like Love and LaFleur against Flores, it's haymakers on both sides. So you're going to see some crazy shit from Flores blitz wise because they're trying to make Love. They're trying to make everything. It's going to be both sides want it to be boom bust in these matchups where it's like, yeah, we're going to take a sack. Yeah, we're going to get pressured. We're going to let a guy unblock, but I'm paying that. Here we go. Like, you're going to see Love throwing some stuff. So I think it's fun because those are two sides that are going to just throw haymakers against each other. But he'll have some stuff. The Vikings run defense isn't great as well. And so I think maybe even the Packers with some banged up guys can still maybe jab them a little bit, which you have to do against the Vikings. But those two sides, it's going to be haymaker city. Wait to see some of the blitzes they bring and what LaFleur is going to probably try and dial up with Love. So yeah, it might be like a 2 touchdown, 1 pick from Love, but some big highlight plays.
All right. Are you down on McCarthy with some optimism, or are you just confused by the totality?
I'm down. I'm kind of out down. I was never huge on him going into that draft class. I another guy I consider day 2. And when watching him again, this is my argument of like, all right, this guy's a project. This guy needs reps. All right, what are you building to? Kirk Cousins, like, what are you building? Like, you're doing all this work to get to the 14th best starter, the 16th best starter. And when I watched him watching him this year, it's, oh, wow. He's like, not only just a project that he needs reps in the games, he needs reps in practice because I think a lot of his mechanical issues, he struggles throwing to his left, which is a classic young quarterback thing. But most quarterbacks we see in the NFL have kind of solved that. That's why it's interesting always to see this, is that he's an overstrider. And what happens when guys are overstriding, there's so much that happens with young quarterbacks in their footwork. Watching with him is everything's a step late. Everything is, he has to hitch one extra time to see it. He has to see something, see the guy already breaking on his route. Oh, he's open. I'm going to throw it. He has good arm strength, but the thing is he's doing a lot where, okay, I'm waiting till he's open. I'm late. All right, I'm going to throw this as hard as I can because I know I'm late and I have to squeeze this in the window. That's already scary to me because you don't want to ever see that. You want to see the guy anticipate and throw it early. And if you just throw something right now, if you throw it soft and easy, you're so much more accurate than whipping it in there. And so watching that means to me that he's mentally behind. I see a lot of cadence issues happen as far as how many false starts they have, which tells me some stuff too, just reading the context clues. I think he's just pushing outside the numbers. He's just so inaccurate right now. And now you're seeing the frustrations happen with all the rest of the players.
I was going to say, Jordan Jefferson is in the A.J. Brown zone.
Oh, man. Wait, no one would ever guess Justin Jefferson would ever reach that point. Like, he's like the all-time teammate. Like, he's willing to block. He's willing to do all this gritty stuff. And now he's even throwing his hands. And he's trying to like save himself. Like, he's like about to freak out. And he stops right before he's about to freak out. But it's like, they see it. They see, this is what we're talking about with Shedeur. They see it every day in practice. We just see the games. So they know. They know.
The 3 best receivers in the league right now might be Justin Jefferson. I think I called him Jordan Jefferson again because I'm old and old people do things like that. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and A.J. Brown. And they're all in some form of jail. I mean, Jamar Chase right now is in actual football jail as he is suspended for like, I tried to ask the question as to like, is there any argument that he didn't? And it's him saying, I did not spit on him.
He appealed it.
I didn't mean to. I didn't do it at all. Like, that's just a lie, dog.
I love that he appealed it. Like, I love that. I think that's so funny. Like, yeah, I know I'm on camera. No, I'm going to fight this. I was going to say, you mentioned all those receivers. They're all in a different circle of hell, of receiver hell. Like, they all are. Like, Justin Jefferson's probably the 7th circle of receiver hell. But they're all different levels of hell right now, circles of hell right now.
So do the Cowboys have any chance to win against the Eagles on Sunday? And I think the reason that I even throw it out here as a possibility is that it's like the Eagles aren't even trying to actually score points, but the Cowboys and the Make-A-Wish Foundation defense kind of make it impossible for you not to.
Make-A-Wish Foundation defense.
Make dreams come true.
Well, also they always have that in the end zone, right? For Thanksgiving, they always
that's the Salvation Army. It's the
Salvation Army. Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah, not
that's right.
Make-A-Wish.
You know what? I need to adapt this. You're right. You need to adapt this.
That's right. Sorry, that was good. No, I do think that the Eagles' defense is really the story of them right now. The offense, for me, I almost get tired of talking about because it's one of these things where it's like, this is what it is. This is how Jalen Hurts plays. These are the routes he prefers. The run game is worse, and that's why it feels worse with that team right now. But I think the Cowboys' offense is like awesome. Like, it's awesome.
Hey, man, George Pickens is your number 2 receiver.
That's fun. It might be a top, like, and also like even when they traded for him, I was optimistic about it because I was like, this is the type of guy that Dak likes. He likes a true X. That's he had Michael Gallup for a while, and this is a better version of Michael Gallup. And this
so when you say that, when you say a true X, what do you mean?
So like they could be the isolated receiver. So an X is the ISO'd guy.
That's the one that lines up on the line of scrimmage. So he's not going to move.
Exactly. And that matters because then your route tree becomes a little more vertical. And so when you're isolated, that means you truly have to win one-on-ones. And I always put it this way. The X's route tree is like a plane, very vertical, straight. If you're in the slot or you're off the ball, it's like a helicopter. Then you can move in every single direction and go every such way. But when most X's now get moved around. So being an X archetype is one of the hardest things to find. That's why I was super high on Tetairoa McMillan with the Panthers, because I think he could be a true X, which he has been. But no, it's a very, very hard archetype to find. Moss is, of course, the best one ever. But you have to win vertically on go routes. You have to win on stop routes, which means like boxing out a guy and winning at the catch point on a contested catch. You have to win on slants. Those are kind of the 3 common routes. And guess what George Pickens is really good at? Goes, stops, and slants. Guess what Dak Prescott loves to throw? Goes, stops, and slants. So it's just that archetype, but also with who else is on the roster. CeeDee Lamb is best as a power slot, as I like to call him. He's a Z. An X is a split end on the ball, end. A Z is a flanker. Move around. He's the flanker. He moves around. That's where CD is unlocked. He can do X stuff. They've experimented with it. But now you got George Pickens, dominant X, CeeDee Lamb, one of the best power slots in the entire league. It's just like, I hate using the word, but it works perfectly. Synergy between everyone is perfect. And then Jake Ferguson is like the perfect tight end for those 2 guys too. And then their line's good. They signed Clayton Adams to be their offensive coordinator and run game coordinator, and he's awesome. Probably gonna be a head coach down the road, but he's been one of my favorite assistant coaches. Their run game is really creative and really just sound. And he's developed all these young guys. They're all taking a step forward this year when they've been healthy. So I love where their offense is going. I had to take yesterday that they're primed for 2026 because I also think Quinnen Williams has somehow gotten underrated. The trade happened, and I was like, I understand Jerry, lols Jerry, but it's like Quinnen Williams is like a top 10 defender in the NFL. I don't think Indy got him in his prime on like a nice contract. So they're actually set up okay for next year because I just think this offense is so freaking awesome.
Yeah, I think they're going to regret that money they give George Pickens once best behavior is no longer required to get this bread. Like
we saw it this weekend.
Right.
One game in Vegas, all of a sudden have to miss the first series.
But the Steelers took a step down by going with DK Metcalf over going with George Pickens. And granted, that tells you how frustrated they had to have been in dealing with it. The point I always make about Pickens is Pickens is from Hoover, Alabama, and Nick Saban did not offer him a scholarship.
All you need to know.
There's something to that, right?
Yes.
They were like,
Yes.
we don't have to do this.
Yep.
They made that call. But no, that game is going to be interesting to watch. And the night game is the Baker Mayfield Bowl. Former Los Angeles Ram Baker Mayfield, though it was only for a brief moment, he was there. But they get Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay seems to be pretty good if you're not. If you are, they look like they're going to lose.
Yep. They're the Intercontinental champ. They they're the best and they're the upper mid card.
That's the honky tonk man. That's the honky tonk man. Okay.
That's exactly what they are. No, yeah, that's Chris Jericho. I feel like he always had the IC belt. No, yeah, they're the best of the kind of the middle tier, the mid card. That's kind of how I feel about the Bucs. No, I think the Rams are the best team right now. I think offense, defense. I think Chris Shula has done a good job on defense. It's been more real than smoke and mirrors on that defense than I thought with the Rams. The Bucs is everybody's hurt all the time. They're getting healthier, but it's just so hard to like depend on them what you're going to get that week, especially more on offense. And I think their defense is good against the run, Vita Vea, all that stuff. Todd Bowles is funky, but they're gettable. I mean, we just saw what the Bills could do to them. Like you can still find ways to get them. That's always the thing with Bowles. He'll overwhelm you if you're not prepped, but if you are prepped, you can kind of find ways. So, but the Bucs are like a good team, but it's like I struggle to kind of just anoint them as a next step team, because it's just what they've shown this year and just the receiver injuries they've had to deal with and the O-line injuries, but they're getting healthier now.
I can't remember where you were on this topic, but was vindication washing over you like it washed over me while Sam Darnold was throwing all those interceptions?
A little. I've been accused of being a Sam Darnold oligarch by my other co-host Matt Harmon because he says me and Mina Kimes were the only ones that still had Sam Darnold stock.
You guys, you're what did she call it? You're a sympathizer.
Oh, is that what she?
She said that years ago. Yes, about the sympathizer.
I am. But I know what he is now, and I think that's the thing is you always gotta be scared of. Again, like I said with Daniel Jones, the pumpkin factor. Where it's just like at any time pressure gets to him. And that's the thing. So far this year, he hasn't been scrambling as much. He hasn't been getting sacked as much. And that to me was because he was operating the offense on time. He wasn't having his spiral moments. And you just got to keep Sam from spiraling. But that was the thing. We watched against the Rams, who have an awesome pass rush. Got a little pressure. This had to move in the pocket and then throw it there. I think the Seahawks are still really good. I really do because their defense is so good and JSN's awesome.
I mean, they almost won that game with Sam Darnold throwing 4 interceptions.
They had better underlying stats. If they threw one less pick, just throw 3 picks. You can't have 4, but if you just throw 3 picks, but the Seahawks are really like Seahawks to me are a top 5 team still. I still think of them as a contender. I really do. They have number 1 DVOA, all that stuff. But I do think that is one of those where you always have to be wary of that, and especially in the NFC. And you look at when it comes playoff time, who are the teams they have to go against? Or maybe the Rams, maybe the Lions, who have a pass rush, maybe the Eagles, who have a pass rush. The Bucks, who can blitz you and do some funky stuff, and they lost to the Bucks even though they put up points. So like that's the thing is they're matchup dependent based on the pass rush. But if you don't have a pass rush, they're going to torch you. And so it's kind of that was a nice way of playing both sides with Sam Darnold right there because that's how I kind of feel with it.
So Mina and I talked about this with Dan Campbell, where Dan Campbell kind of ran that okie doke where he took over play calling against Washington's defense, which is awful. And then I thought he called a poor game against the Eagles last week, but now he gets another opportunity to play a bad team. He's going to be calling plays at home against the Giants.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, but I get the argument of I want to show this guy what it is that I want. But the irony of Dan Campbell is, boy, he sure does get a little too cute out here.
Right. Well, he actually is like meathead, what everyone thinks of Dan, even though has shown that he's very smart and everything.
Yeah, but there's a few too many cute. Like I couldn't believe I've talked about this all week. That 3rd and goal from the 5, and they ran out of the gun. I was just like, what are you doing right now?
Right. It's not a short. Well, and also that gets into the Jared Goff outdoors. I mean that's a real thing. Like it's some things could be jokes, haha, but that is a real thing with him. 2 gloves, Jared Goff. And if you notice, you can tell a lot by how a guy misses. Like McCarthy misses high, but every Jared Goff miss was a 2-seam sinker into the ground. And that to me was someone that was just trying to like, okay, I got to throw this. Oh, and he's just digging into the ground. A great pitch with 2 strikes. but not trying to throw a ball over the middle. But I'm with you that Dan Campbell timed this up. But I also thought, I had some worries about Morton taking over play calling this year because again, when you're narratively scouting, like you just said with Saban and Pickens, this guy's been an assistant for some good coaches for a long time, and he never really got a shot to call plays. He did once for a really bad Jets team. Woo, woo, woo. That's some alarms. I don't know John Morton at all, but I'm just like, I'm keep my eye on that. And then he benches him. And I'm like, yep, I knew it. And he wasn't with the system, all that stuff. I actually think with the Lions, Kelvin Shepard's doing an awesome job. I am fired. I love the Lions defense. They play, everyone's talking about the dying personnel stuff like what the Rams are doing. The Lions play base. So just they're 4-3, 4 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers, like every play. And I love that. They just say, we're going to be big and just beat the shit out of you.
Yeah. We're going to hurt people.
That's what they do. They're the Hurt Syndicate. They just beat the shit out of you. It's awesome. It's great. I love it. Their defensive line is so big. They got the Aiden Hutchinson, the speedy pass rusher, but then DJ Reader, Tyreek Williams, Roy Lopez. They got like beef. Jack Campbell's playing great. They got like Alex Anzalone, Barnes. And then Brian Branch is their safety, and like he's a heavy hitter too. It's like, I don't know. I think Shepard, especially what he showed early in the season, because I thought it was kind of basic, and what he's gotten to, I've been really a big fan of what the Lions defense is doing, because it's just so against type of what's going on in the league, where everyone's getting smaller and faster, and they're like, nope, we're just going to get big and just punch you in the face every play. Watch them on the tush pushes. They're smoking the Eagles tush pushes. Like, it was awesome.
when is Lopez going to get him a Modelo commercial? I was not aware. Like, when I looked that up, I'm like, oh, you'll be in a Modelo commercial very soon, son. Like, the standard for Mexicans to get in the Modelo commercial is simply be a Mexican. For the black people in the Modelo commercials, like Tony Gonzalez, who is also Latino, don't get me wrong, but also he had to be a Hall of Famer. He's sitting in the commercials next to Roberto Garza. Anderson .Paak gotta be Anderson .Paak to get in the commercial. It's some woman that used to be 5'0" who a DJ now. She get to be in a Modelo commercial. Roy Lopez, they must not know you out here, partner. You need to send them your paperwork.
Did they have one where for like a Modelo commercial for like an MMA fighter that like lost a title fight once, and that was it? And then they're like, yeah, you get a commercial.
Yeah.
No, you get
Modelo, one too. but not everybody got the same standards to get on with Modelo. But Roy Lopez, it's some paper out here for you, big dog.
He should, man. He was like one of my little nerd favorites the last couple of years with the Cardinals. I was one of the 3 people in the world that watched the Cardinals defense the last couple of years. And then he's a free agent this year, and he gets like a little cheap deal with the Lions. I'm like, pay this guy, and he's been great for him. So no, I'm with you. He needs to be getting some uptick with marketing, because I think he's just a good player overall.
And we will end the show in a way I didn't expect, talking about Roy Lopez, who I did not know existed until very recently, and he plays for my favorite team. But that is Nate Tice. Check him out, Football 301 Yahoo Sports podcast with Charles McDonald. My man, I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. Always fun.
All right, man. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. We do this 4 times a week. Ryan Brumley handling everything behind the scenes. Thank you, sir. Hit the voicemail line, 323-596-7767. Remember, follow The Right Time. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars, I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. And we'll talk to you guys in a couple of days. Take it easy.